From San Juan, Puerto Rico, it's the O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico Tip-Off. And tonight, our championship game. And a good matchup for you, folks, as the Xavier Musketeers will take on the number 12 team in the country, the Memphis Tigers. Here are brackets. Xavier escaping narrowly. A half-court buzzer beater by Dante Jackson, the difference. And Memphis able to get past Bobby Gonzalez, Seton Hall Pirates. All right, folks, thanks for joining us. John Shabby alongside Fran Fraschilla and Hubert Davis. Got ourselves a good matchup right here. Start on the Xavier side. Two tough, tight wins. And, Fran, it looks like Sean Miller's team has shown, at least for now, they know how to win late in games.
Well, this is an Elite Eight team that, although they lost 3 starters, still has enough in the tank that these guys really rally around a guy named Derek Brown, who's an outstanding player. They do know how to win, Hubert.
Well, I mean, you look at Memphis. I think they have enough talent to obviously win Conference USA, get back to a Final Four, and possibly win a national championship. Coming into this tournament, they had some question marks. Who's going to play point? Who's going to be that rebounder, defender? Who's going to be that go-to guy? I feel like Antonio Anderson and Sean Taggart have answered some of those questions. They can shoot the ball from the outside against a great Xavier team. They have a great chance of getting back to the Final Four.
Yeah, every team deals with losses. Obviously, for Xavier, one of the big losses, Drew Lavender, and they have themselves an outstanding freshman in Terrell Holloway, who's played big minutes.
Well, he's come up big, including 6 big free throws in a big win over Missouri. So you're right. And what you do when you have a great program like both these teams are is you lose good players and then other good players come in. Both Sean Miller and John Calipari, who have a long history, have done a great job of rebuilding 2 quality teams from a year ago.
Well, I mean, you look at it, they lost, Chris Douglas-Roberts, Derrick Rose, Joey Dorsey, guys that performed in big-time situations and have put together a team. This has to be the biggest college basketball team I've ever seen in Memphis. I mean, on this tournament, they've had a 2 or 3 inch height advantage from the point guard all the way to the center in Sean Taggart.
Yeah, lots of length, no question. You saw the embrace between John Calipari and Sean Miller, 2 Pittsburgh guys. We'll have more on that during the broadcast. All right, how about our Star Watch? And for the Xavier Musketeers, they're led by Derek Brown. He's kind of their energizer bunny.
Well, he really is. 16 points in each of their 2 wins. And again, one of those guys who's got Elite 8 experience. He does know how to win, but Memphis has a similar situation with Antonio Anderson.
Yeah, Antonio Anderson is one of the best defenders in the country. He's a versatile guard, a guy that can score, he can rebound, he can distribute the basketball. He actually leads the team in assists at 6 assists a game.
And tonight's starting lineups first for the Xavier Musketeers. They'll go 3-guard attack. Raymond Anderson and Jackson. Up front, it'll be Derek Brown and Jason Love. Meanwhile, for John Calipari's Memphis Tigers, 3 guards as well. Antonio Anderson joined by Tyreek Evans, the freshman. Donnell Mack has shot the basketball very well. And up front, Taggart and Dozier are the guys to watch. Keys to the game in this one. Hubert, what about the Musketeers?
Well, I was thinking about, with Xavier, with their freshman guards and Dante Jackson, they got to take care of the basketball. They're averaging 18 turnovers a game and establish their post players. They've got some guys like C.J. Anderson, Derek Brown, and Kenny Freeze that can really go at Robert Dozier and Sean Taggart down low for Memphis.
And Memphis, keys to the game for Coach Cal.
Well, creating turnovers is huge for Memphis. They create turnovers, they get into the open court and score in transition, and they also need to shoot better from the outside. Against a good defensive team in Xavier, they're going to make them hit some 3-point jump shots. They're only shooting 23% from 3-point range.
What am I, chopped liver? I don't get any keys for the game?
There are no keys. You have.
Well, I can't drive the car tonight?
Mom and Dad said, Fran, you have to stay home. Hubert's taking the keys. Well, a great matchup.
You get after halftime.
That's right. We got a great matchup for you. Here's how this wild one finished. Virginia Tech and Xavier. Jeff Allen with the tip-in, 1.9 to go. But Dante Jackson, you had to see it to believe it. Oh, Fran, you were doing that game. It was wild.
And he was 0 for 8 until he made this shot. And Seth Greenberg, the coach of Virginia Tech, told me that's the 4th half-court shot that's beaten Seth in his career. But it shows you Xavier's will to win.
And Xavier similarly in their win over Missouri, down late and big. Free throws hit by Terrell Holloway. Sean Miller in his 5th season. Great coaching line at Xavier with that mod of the late Skip Prosser, and of course Pete Gillen carried on the tradition. They've won 20 or more, 11 of the last 12 seasons. And I mean, what more can you say on the other side? Talk about John Calipari and the great job that he's done. Lost that heartbreaker in the national championship game last year.
Well, John's a guy I go back 30 years with. In fact, you'll like this. We worked Dean Smith's basketball camp together in 1978. We were roommates. And so I know all about the Sean Miller and the Miller family relationship with John Calipari, which we'll talk about.
So the Pittsburgh guys will match up here. And I know Coach Cal was, pretty pointed about the fact that this, in the early season, will be their toughest test so far.
No, I think it's true. They'll play a tough schedule, as you guys know. But I think this is good for Xavier as well. Both teams, Hubert, interestingly, not from the so-called power conferences. These are two teams that dominate their leagues inside a conference.
Well, you look at Memphis, they always try to test themselves in non-conference play. They play Tennessee, they play Georgetown, they play at Gonzaga, they're playing Syracuse, and in this tournament, playing against this great competition, it will prepare them to go up against better competition in Conference USA this year and also in the NCAA tournament.
I'm going to try to refrain from mid-major to escape my lips, and we'll stick with non-BCS.
Well, I don't think. I think both leagues really are. They may not be mid-majors and they may not be BCS pro school conferences, but a lot of good basketball in both leagues.
Big time. Dozier and Brown set to jump it up. And we are ready to go. The second championship in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico Tip-Off. The Miami Hurricanes won the first one last year. Dozier wins the tip. Anderson controls Memphis basketball.
Well, Memphis is going to go right to that dribble drive offense.
Toss into Taggart and a takeaway. C.J. Anderson looking for some help. And again, the length of the Tigers so tough defensively. Rebound by Dozier, and it's Memphis basketball. Anderson aggressively to the goal. They get the foul on the floor.
At the beginning of the year, the question was going to be who's going to be the point guard. They didn't have Derrick Rose. They tried Willie Kemp, maybe Wesley Witherspoon, possibly Robert Sally, but I think the guy is going to have to be Antonio Anderson, not because he's the best point guard on this team. He can take care of the basketball. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's been in big-time situations.
Donnell Mack to the goal, and he's fouled. He'll shoot two.
I think you're right, Hubert. They were spoiled last year. I mean, Derrick Rose has only come along once every 20 years. And if you look at this Memphis team and you take away CDR and Derrick Rose, this is your typical long, athletic, defensive-oriented Memphis Tiger team that John Calipari's had. I do think they'll struggle to score some because they don't have Derrick Rose, but as Hubert pointed out, they are so long and they're going to get back to being that really good defensive team that I think they didn't get enough credit for last year.
Exactly. They score in three ways. The great turnovers, get in transition. They're a great offensive rebounding team, and then they score in the half court. But playing their defense, that's how they generate their offense.
Donnell Mack, 1 out of 2. Donnell Mack, the one guy that's been hitting from the outside for the Tigers. Derek Brown. And they swing it back to Brown. The Tigers just so long and athletic, and it bothers so many teams. Anderson hanging as the shot was contested, but he's able to follow and get the Musketeers on the board.
You look at guys like C.J. Anderson that play inside at 6'5". They have played against bigger guys their whole careers, so they know how to make contact, hang in the air, and he's a good, solid player.
Tyreek Evans in and out, and Xavier the other way.
Well, I'll be surprised tonight if Xavier, especially early, gets a lot of easy looks because they're playing with Dante Jackson, who's not really a point guard as well.
That game winner from half court, Fran, as you mentioned, his only field goal in that Virginia Tech game.
That's one of the things that they missed with Drew Lavender as a point guard last year. He was the guy that would pick up defensively. He would be able to get in transition, make easy passes, get into the lane, and give easy shots for the Xavier players.
Dozier has it deflected off his hand, out of bounds, Xavier ball.
Watch this. I talked about C.J. Anderson. Watch him hang in the air now. He's going to post up. He bodies Evans, and then he's got that little double pump move that I'm sure he's been using since elementary school. because he's a guy that doesn't have the length but has the strength to be able to play around the hoop.
You know what's interesting? You look at a great freshman like Tariq Evans coming as a high school All-American. This is probably the first game that he's ever played at where a guy is just as tall, just as strong, and just as athletic. He's probably never been posted up in his life. And C.J. Anderson, first 2 plays of the game, goes right down to the block.
That's a great point.
Dante Jackson aggressively to the goal. They get Robert Dozier with the foul.
You know what's funny about that? I had a chance to work with Tyreek Evans this summer at the Nike skill camps. He's a great kid. He loves to be coached. But when you're that good in high school, your coach is always telling you, don't foul. We need you on the court. We need you to score 40.
We need you to score buckets.
Now John Calipari's saying, hey, would you guard the guy?
Hubert, I thought it was impressive the transition he made from game 1 to game 2. They were kind of running with him the dribble, drive, charge offense because he was really struggling offensively in his first game, but he made the adjustment and was distributing in game 2.
Well, in Tennessee Chattanooga, when he was driving, he was looking to score, and he had 4 charges. In the second game against Seton Hall, he went in there and didn't predetermine what he was going to do, allowed him to create, pass the ball to his teammates, and he had 6 assists, tied for the high in that game.
Sean Taggart aggressively grabbing the board, couldn't follow, and now Xavier basketball.
Xavier is an outstanding rebounding team, and as is Memphis. So the key for Sean Miller is to make sure you keep Taggart off the glass.
To the goal, Brown can't get it to go. Love fought for the board, but Mack comes away with it and gives to Anderson. Willie Kemp gives off Dozier. Taggart kicks out, and Kemp way off the mark. They're only 24% from 3 to start the season.
But every time they needed somebody to step up and shoot the threes, Daniel Mack hit 5 threes in that first game, and then Willie Kemp came off the bench and was able to knock down some perimeter jump shots.
Love with a jumper, Jason Love, the junior from Philadelphia.
Well, he really usually helps you in the paint, so that's not a common occurrence, but they'll take it.
Ooh. Found the floor. They get Derek Brown. And the first on Brown.
You know what's interesting, guys? I asked our stat people here at the tournament to compile all 8 teams' cumulative three-point shooting so far early in the year. And right now it's under 31%. So those people that said the arc was not going to be much of a factor, I agree with what you said in the first game, John. Coaches are going to really have to coach shot selection on that.
That was Seth Greenberg saying it's going to go from a democracy to a dictatorship, and you determine who's got the green light, who's got the yellow light, and who's got the red light. And I am definitely the red light amongst this group. Dozier gets a 3. How about that? Big fella steps outside.
That's one of the things that he worked on over the summer. He was one of the guys from Memphis, along with Antonio Anderson, that went into the NBA draft to test the waters. He came back, got into the weight room, added more weight, and wanted to improve his outside jump shot.
That's a great rule, too, you know, to be able to have NBA guys tell you what your weaknesses are. And instead of having to go to the D-League, he gets to come back to college for a year. That's where he probably would have ended up.
I like Hubert's point. If you have to ask, you're not ready.
Yeah. Yeah, but don't tell these players that.
Shot clock winding down. Anderson has it knocked away. Shot clock violation, and there's that outstanding Memphis defense. 15:26 to go, first half. Xavier leading this one by 3 as Robert Dozier drains the long one.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts at better prices every day. And Puerto Rico. No passport required for U.S. citizens.
Back here at the O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico Tip-Off, our championship game, and Xavier leading it by 3. John Calipari, 9th year as head man at Memphis, 16th overall, but the connection to Sean Miller, he's a Pittsburgh guy.
Well, it goes even beyond that, as you know, John, because Sean Miller's family and the Caliparis, very close. John Calipari spent many a summer up at the Miller house, the grandmother, and John recruited Sean Miller to go to Pittsburgh back in 1987. They're as close as brothers, and there you see John Miller, who John Calipari used to play for in the summertime. So John Miller, an outstanding coach at Black Hawk High School, coached Dante Calabria, who went and played at North Carolina. I know Hubert likes that, but he's one of the legends in high school coaching, and those two families go way back.
Evans has it swatted away. Fight for the loose ball. Look at these two teams get after it. It'll be Memphis ball. Just a finish on Sean Miller. I didn't know it was him at the time, but you remember the TV show That's Incredible? And Sean Miller put on the dribbling display when he was just a kid.
Yep, I remember that. And he might have even been on the Johnny Carson show as well, because his dad used to teach him all the ball handling trick. Man, if he taught you, you'd still be in the league.
Actually, I played with Coach Sean Miller in the World University team in 1991. P.J. Carlissimo was the head coach. Coach Roy Williams was the assistant coach. We went over to Sheffield, England. We won the gold medal. And that was the last international college basketball team that won a gold medal before they went to the NBA team.
Wow. That's good stuff. You didn't tell me that before the game. You were holding out on it.
I was holding out on you. I pulled that one out of my pocket.
Dozier's 2 a little short. Xavier basketball, Musketeers by 3. And the freshman Terrell Holloway into the game. Exploding to the goal, and he's fouled. He'll go to the line where he's knocked down a lot of big shots so far in Puerto Rico.
Well, how about the fact that, yeah, absolutely. Take a look at how he gets into the lane, watch the body contact, and still hangs in the air, able to shoot those 2 free throws.
By the way, we mentioned that Missouri win 10 for 10 from the line in that game against Missouri.
Well, you look at Xavier, and the #1 question mark is, how are they going to replace Drew Lavin at the point guard position? That Missouri game, when I was watching, what I was really impressed by this freshman was he wanted the ball towards the end of the game. He was a guy that said, everybody clear out, give me the basketball, let's get into a set, and let's make a play. And to have that type of definitive move from a freshman in a big-time situation against a very talented Missouri team, I thought was really impressive.
You know what I like about that, too, is Sean Miller, who, as you know, was a terrific point guard. Be great to play for a guy that really understands that position if you're Terrell Holloway.
Evans 3, no good, and that one deflected out of bounds. Pierre Henderson-Niles and the freshman Kenny Freeze battling for that one. There's Freeze, the big fella.
Say, I like this kid too. You're Kenny Freeze, 7 feet, 260. Probably top 50 recruits in the country last year.
Versatile. Center, can score, right hand, left hand jump hook. Can also play at the high post and knock down that perimeter jump shot.
And with this lineup and the veterans, he doesn't have to, John. You know, all he has to do is play 15, 18 minutes a game, and he'll keep getting better.
As well, he'll push Jason Loves to stay on the court. Got to be productive, or the freshman will take some of Love's minutes. Down low, the heavyweights battling. Henderson-Niles and Freeze. Skip pass to Raymond. Launches from 3 and hits. That was from deep, B.J. Raymond.
And I'll tell you what, there's not a lot of freshmen that could make that pass out of the low post. How many guys you played with in the NBA that couldn't catch it in the low post and look to the opposite side of the floor? Take a look at that skip pass.
That's a huge skill. He had the ball down low on the post and had the recognition to face up and find out a wide open B.J. Raymond who can knock it down from 3.
So Xavier leading 12-4. Antonio Anderson to inbounds. And they go right to Taggart. Spinning. Blocked by Freeze.
Talking a little trash, too. I like that.
The 7-foot freshman from Massillon, Ohio. Sean Miller says he is as talented a recruit as they've ever had.
Yes, Chris Spielman is from Massillon, so you know they put out some toughness.
Anderson, he'll try a 3 and hit.
That's your guy, Ubi.
Obviously, he's one of the best defenders in the country. You saw what he did in the NCAA tournament, locking up Drew Knights on Michigan State, and DJ Augustine and Justin Mason at Texas, and then Darren Collison and Josh Hipp at UCLA in the Final Four, Coach.
Dozier pulls it back out. 13:20 to go, first half. Xavier by 5. Dozier working on Anderson. foul on the floor.
Take a look at this, guys. Now, the one thing he doesn't have yet is a left hand. He uses the right hand, which exposes the ball to the defender. And I bet you within a year he's got a left-handed move in there.
Sean Taggart on the previous play got his shot blocked because he uses his left hand as well. So just being able to use both hands, I know that sounds simple, but it can be really effective when you're trying to score down low.
Sean Miller wanted a double dribble as Anderson pulls up and draws Memphis to within 3.
Boy, you love his size, you know. He is going to play a lot of point. He's almost 6'6".
Kenny Freese called for the moving pick, and the offensive foul will give the basketball over to Memphis. Tomorrow night, ESPN2 shoots 2 college basketball games from the O'Reilly Auto Parts CBE Classic. First, 7:30 Eastern, it will be Syracuse going up against Florida. Then 9:30 Eastern, it's Kansas and Washington.
Hey, my favorite point guard in the country, Johnny Flynn of Syracuse. Not the best, maybe, but a great leader.
So he's got more shooters out on the wing now with Andy Rounds and Eric Diemendorf this year.
Yep. Boy, he had to do a lot by himself last year, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. But he also had Dante Green out there who decided to go to the NBA, which I wish he should have stayed in college, Coach.
Yeah,
but they pick him.
and as good as he is, that might be addition by subtraction. Not because he's not a great player, but because, boy, he shot a lot of jump shots for a guy 6'10" last year.
Saw Brad Redford check in. Redford, an outstanding shooter, a freshman from Michigan. Xavier by 3, and that pressure continues for Memphis. Bobby Gonzalez, the Seton Hall coach, I think summed it up very well for a lot of coaches. Said that Memphis comes at you like they were shot out of a cannon.
Well, that's the thing. They're not going to score as easily this year without the guys they lost, but you can just tell they're going to, Hubert makes a great point about how long they are. They're going to be a great defensive team once again.
Good cut, and Jamel McLean gets free for the slam.
Hey, when Derek Brown says that McLean's the best athlete on the team, that's saying something. He's got a 40-inch vertical, the transfer from Tulsa.
Jeff Robinson is checked in. Willie Kemp to the glass. Nice move. Former starter at point guard. That was when he was a freshman before Derrick Rose arrived.
Yeah, his role has really changed. He started 2 years ago when he went to the Final 8. Then he came off the bench. And Derrick Rose was in the lineup, and they're trying to get him to play with confidence. When he does, he can knock down perimeter jump shots and drive inside the lane and make good, solid plays.
They get Donnell Mack with the foul. Good cut, McLean. The flush, and Xavier leads this one by 3. Back here in San Juan, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico Tip-Off Championship game. Xavier leading Memphis 14-11. Fran and I will be feasting in Orlando. And, well, Memphis still feasting this year despite the losses of these 3 guys.
That's three heavyweights, all in the NBA. Derrick Rose right now, Hubert, might be the odds-on favorite for Rookie of the Year.
Chicago playing terrific basketball, and Douglas Roberts is with the net. So look at Willie Kemp, a player that started 2 years ago, and a team that went to the Final 8. And just to be able to say, okay, I'm going to come off the bench, I think that's big time. But what a transition to now. Sometimes start, sometimes come off the bench, but it's playing with a lot of confidence.
How would you handle that if you had to give up your spot like that, like he did?
Well, is it better for the team? And it was better for the team to have Chris Douglas. I mean, you have Derrick Rose at the starting lineup, and you can still, people think about starters, you can still come off the bench and be a huge part of a basketball team, and that's what Willie Kemp has done throughout his career.
Dante Jackson putting it on the floor, gives to McLean. And Redford off to Anderson. Good look down low. McLean lost it for a moment. And Dozier comes away with it. Here come the Tigers. With, look out, Wesley Witherspoon. Oh, Tyreek Evans isn't the only outstanding freshman on this Tiger team.
This is a guy that was about a top 30 player. He signed late. Kept Texas dangling, a few others. And John Calipari thinks he can also play a little bit of point guard.
He can handle the basketball, he can post up. really working on his jump shot. But you can see his strength running in transition.
Nice move, McClain, 2 more, and he's got 4.
You remember a guy that played for Memphis a few years ago by the name of Penny Hardaway? That's who some people in that town compare him to.
Say they'd like Wesley Witherspoon to get a little stronger, but he will. Only a freshman. Love the steal. Dante Jackson leads the Musketeers into the front court.
John Calipari wants to know how Sean Taggart levitated that time.
Couple of blocks for Memphis. Anderson explodes to the goal, but can't get it to fall. Take another look at that dunk.
This was left-handed.
That's nice. Yesterday we had the best non-dunks. Now that's the best. That's the best real dunk.
You know what? He's still a freshman, so he can only go about 2 minutes at a time.
They got Taggart on that last foul. His first. 16 fouls on Xavier, 4 on Memphis. DJ Raymond now. Raymond pulls up, frees the board, and the big guy down low gets fouled. He'll go to the line.
Big guy's got great hands. And he's got quicker feet than people think for a guy that's 260 pounds.
And he plays with a lot of confidence. You saw him talking junk on the defensive end, and he comes down offensively, goes for an offensive rebound. He looked very confident out there on the floor. That's something John and I have been talking about the freshmen. You know, DeMar DeRozan, Tyreek Evans. At some points, they looked like freshmen, like they didn't feel confident out there. But these two freshmen, Terrell Holloway and Kenny Freeze, look like they fit into college basketball.
Yeah, it's funny because there's not going to be the amount of freshmen that dominate college basketball this year. That's already clear, John. But the fun part is to see a guy like Kenny Freeze, who's only maybe a top 75 guy, and you look at him, he reminds me of Todd McCullough, who played in the league. But it's going to take 3 or 4 years, but I love his upside. You can tell he's been well coached, Hubert, in high school. Rob Topp did a terrific job with him.
Donnell Mack buries that triple. He's the one guy that's been hitting from deep. 37% from 3 for the lefty.
He is going to get major playing time because he can make shots.
Turnover, and it's Memphis basketball. Tomorrow afternoon, ESPN2 shoots 2 college basketball games from the EA Sports Maui Invitational. 3 Eastern, St. Joe's takes on Texas. Then 5 Eastern, Indiana goes up against Notre Dame. The EA Sports Maui Invitational, part of Feast Week presented by Lowe's, ESPN2 tomorrow.
Tell you what, I love those Texas Longhorns. Deep. A lot of bodies up front. I know you're a Damian James fan.
I am. It's going to be interesting how they play without DJ Augustine. I kind of look at DJ Augustine kind of like a Steve Nash or Jason Kidd, where he makes other players better. And how are they going to play without having DJ Augustine get into the lane and set up some wide open shot that they had last year?
Oh, Pierre Henderson-Niles grabbed the board, but then landed on the ball. And he is hurting right now. Kenny Freeze has it knocked away, but he's fouled. And right now, the big guy, Pierre Henderson-Niles, in a heap.
I don't think anybody realizes from Memphis, they're so busy arguing with the official. Now they do.
And again, this is a guy that sustained a knee injury. He's fought weight problems because of the knee injury.
And you take a look at this right here now. Oh! His right knee buckled back. Unfortunately, they're showing it on the scoreboard. And, you know, guys, I want to send my best out to Casey Cunningham from USC. He's a guy, Hubert, that had a knee injury in high school, and he's missed most of the first 2 years.
Probably had his best game of this year, or maybe his career today.
Yep.
And he got hurt underneath the basket.
Exactly. And this guy, you know what? John Calipari, I've talked to him throughout the summer. They really need him because he lost about 50 pounds in anticipation of being able to replace what Joey Dorsey brings them, that physical toughness. So we hope Hope it's nothing serious.
He's played well during the tournament as well, being a consistent rebounder. He had 10 rebounds in the previous game, and you could just tell, losing that amount of pounds, how much he was able to run the floor, and just a solid contributor off the bench.
You know, he's got great hands, don't you think?
It's kind of like an Oliver Miller, a guy that can pass, can score, has a big body, and has loads of talent.
Freeze long in the free throw. Fran, I heard you talking the other day about some international experience that Kenny Freeze had that helped him.
You know, he was over at the Reebok Euro Camp. Pete Philo runs that for Reebok, and he's a scout for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And he came over with a bunch of really highly regarded high school All-Americans. He got annihilated by some of the international kids. But I talked to him later that summer. He said it was a great learning experience because just getting outside of northeastern Ohio and realizing there's good players all over the world, I think really helped him that summer.
Big guy pulls down the board, gives off to Holloway.
I mean, John, he couldn't get a shot off at the camp. Bobo Morgan from UCLA as well. They were just overmatched, so it's good to see him continue to improve.
Fight for the loose ball. That one is collected by Raymond. Tell you, the effort both ways is tremendous. Freeze, little jump hook, in and out. And that one knocked out of bounds. It'll stay Memphis basketball. Xavier leads it by a bucket. Timeout on the court, 7:43 to go, first half. Got a good one. Tough defensive battle in San Juan. Monday Night Football tomorrow night, and some of the teams in the hunt, and certainly Green Bay and New Orleans. Big game for both those teams. So you got to come up with a win, because you see Tampa Bay at 8-3, Dallas 7-4, and Washington and Atlanta same story. Got to win.
You know, T.O. had a big day today, and I did not realize that he was a 3-year basketball starter at what was then UT Chattanooga. Now it's Chattanooga. Did you?
Yeah, he's one of those guys that thinks he's a green light, but he's actually a red light.
I understand.
Ones that know, ones that don't know, and ones that don't know they don't know.
Xavier by 2. Memphis trying to tie it or take the lead.
Little zone here. They said they'd play zone.
Witherspoon kicks out Mack. That one in and out. And Holloway pulls it down. Terrell Holloway with the board and pushes it into the front court.
Every shot on both ends is a war. Very feisty front lines.
See both of these teams really struggling to score in a half-court set, and both of these teams have 0 points in transition. So whoever has the ability to be able to get out into transition, get into the fast break, is probably going to win this game.
Yeah, and I like the fact that both teams guard well.
Great work by Jamel McLean. You talk about the hops. First shot was stopped, regathered, jumped again, and put it home.
But how about this, John? How about Love, McLean, Derek Brown, and Kenny Freeze as a front line?
Oh! Taggart +1. Sean Taggart will go to the line.
Well, he has really improved, and he's filled out, too. He was mostly a jump shooter when he was at Iowa State. But Sean Taggart's put on about 30 pounds. And there's your freshman right there, Witherspoon, Penny Hardaway.
Hey, he's making a play, finding Sean Taggart underneath, and I agree with you, Coach, one of the most improved players. Now he's scoring down low in the post. He's feeling that role of the rebounder and shot blocker that Joey Dorsey filled for this team last year, and he's also staying out of foul trouble.
Yes, and he's skilled. You know, unlike Joey Dorsey, he gives you a little, obviously he was a great rebounder. Yeah, it gives you a little more dimension.
Sean Miller calls a timeout. 6:21 to go, first half. 30-second timeout. We'll take it with him. O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico Tip-Off at Xavier by 2 tomorrow night on ESPN2. The O'Reilly Auto Parts CBE Classic. Couple of games for 7:30 Eastern. Number 19 Florida goes up against Johnny Flynn at Syracuse. Then 9:30 Eastern, Bill Self for number 24 Kansas go up against Washington. The O'Reilly Auto Parts CBE Classic, part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's on ESPN2 tomorrow.
You know, Coach, you look at the Pac-10, I thought Washington would make a play this year. You've got John Brockman, who's averaging 20 points and 11 rebounds. They got a good point guard in Justin Detmon, and they lose to Portland at home by 10.
I know. I'll tell you who the sleeper team out there is still Washington State. They lost 3 starters, but they have a terrific nucleus back with Taylor Rochester and Harmeling and Baines. And I love this freshman, Klay Thompson, Michael Thompson's son.
What were your thoughts on USC from what you saw?
You know, I was disappointed. They're not as complete a team as I expected. Now, obviously, they didn't get Alex Stevenson, the Carolina transfer, eligible. But DeMar DeRozan, who I love as a kid and is a great athlete, he doesn't know how to play yet. Their point guard play, Daniel Hackett is solid, but he's a caretaker. And Taj Gibson's the real deal.
Blocked there. Xavier the other way. Holloway pushing the pace. Holloway can't get the layup to go. And it'll be Memphis basketball. Let's see what they have. And they get the foul on B.J. Raymond. And they'll go the other end. It's 1-1.
You know, we were talking about Alex Stevenson not getting eligible. Xavier is waiting on Jordan Crawford, the Indiana transfer, who they are trying to get eligible, and I guess claim that because of all the controversy at IU that he should be eligible right away. I don't agree with that. And there are some other players in the same boat. Herb Pope's already been denied at Seton Hall. I don't know about your feeling, Hubert, but I know this. If a guy is transferring home because of, let's say, a tragedy or an illness in his family.
Tyler Smith.
Yeah. The last thing you want to do is be playing ball. You want to be spending time with your family. So that I don't understand.
But, you know, I always have a problem, Coach, with how a coach can go from one school to the next and then coach the next year, like a Trent Johnson from Stanford to LSU. I went to North Carolina. Yeah, I wanted to get a great education, but I wanted to play for Coach Smith. If Coach Smith left, I wouldn't want to stay in North Carolina. So I think if your coach leaves, you should be able to go to another school without sitting out a year.
Good move down low. I'll tell you what, Jamel McLean has had a huge first half. 10 points for the Tulsa transfer, showing the hops and doing good work down low.
And what's unbelievable about him is he does not take a lot of bad shots. You know, when you think about him, he's getting everything near the basket. He doesn't shoot jump shots. He just uses that high-rise ability. In that regard, he's a lot like Derek Brown, who, at least early in his career, who got everything on dunks.
Well, he really knows his role defensively. He rebounds, guards the post, and on the offensive end, he runs the floor, finishes in the lane, and goes after offensive rebounds, and that's why he has 10 points here in the first half.
Jamel McLean came in 13 of 15 from the floor, a meager 87%.
And it's gone up. It's gone up.
That's nice.
Hey, there's guys out here without any defense in a layup line and not shoot a higher percentage. But I don't think, that's my guess now, if Indiana were to get Jordan Crawford eligible, he's a terrific talent, and they think he can play the point,
right?
And that would really help them. My sense is they won't get him eligible just because there's a sentiment right now that a lot of coaches are complaining about being able to transfer, be eligible right away. So it'll be interesting. I think it's about 2 weeks away from happening.
USC, by the way, will get Marcus Johnson available, the UConn transfer, after the first semester, about mid-December. So Tim Floyd will get some help, just not from Alex Stevenson. Here in San Juan, it is Xavier by 6, and the transfer Jamel McLean has been a large part of the story for the Musketeers' success. Anderson puts it on the floor, kicks out, off the hands of Wesley Witherspoon, and tapped out of bounds. It'll be a backcourt violation. Xavier ball. Xavier is matching the Memphis intensity.
Well, that's Sean Miller. That's Xavier basketball. That's the beauty of this matchup. You have two teams that know how to win despite each losing 3 starters from a year ago. Hate those bounce passes on the perimeter.
Witherspoon, freshman, pulls up. Dante Jackson with the board.
Well, Memphis offensively is struggling because they're not creating as many turnovers and being able to get into the fast break. They've only forced 4 turnovers for Xavier. And if they can't get points off in transition, then they really, really struggle in a half-court set.
Anderson uses the body well. C.J. Anderson with 2 more. And he's got 6.
You know, he reminds me of P.J. Tucker that played at Texas in that guys their size know how to play against bigger players.
And Anderson has started his career at Manhattan for Bobby Gonzalez. Antonio Anderson with the ball stuck in between the rim and the bucket.
Take a look at this now. Now Anderson goes about 6'5". Now watch him draw the contact, then pulls the ball back, hangs in the air. And that's a mismatch right there when he's got someone his own size on him.
Hubert back to Memphis for a second. Look at their team in the half court. Now, they haven't gotten much tonight from their 3 main guys, but it seems like one of the things they have to sort out when they go half court, who does the ball go to? Who's the number 1 option?
I think it has to go down to Sean Taggart. He's a guy that can score down low on the post or put Robert Dozier down low on the post. In terms of offensively, those are the 2 guys that can get a high percentage shot pretty much on every possession. Then you work the ball through them and then work it back out. That dribble, drive, motion offense is great only if you have guys that are shooting from the outside. That's what completes that offense. And if they're not knocking down threes and getting in transition, they're going to struggle offensively.
And I think the thing they really are going to have to worry about this year, Hubert, and UMass did this on the first game, was play off their perimeter guys and take away the dribble drive and crowd guys like Taggart and Dozier, because I agree, those are the most likely guys that can put a lot of points on the board for you.
UMass would have won that game, but they had 24 turnovers. That's the only thing that saved them, because Memphis shot 2 of 19 from 3-point range.
This is a new rule this year, or at least an emphasis on an old rule. It's an absolute if the defender trips the offensive man with the ball, even if it's accidental. Because the prevailing thought is you're putting the offensive player at a disadvantage. So even though John Calipari knows that it didn't happen on purpose, the other absolute is 2 hands on the ball handle or automatic foul.
1-and-1 here. 18 fouls on Memphis, 9 on Xavier. And that free throw short from Dante Jackson. Witherspoon aggressively to the rim. Taggart, good board. And he's fouled. Sean Taggart grabbing the board. Maybe didn't need to put it on the floor with that quick power dribble, but he's fouled, and he will shoot 2 when we return. Xavier leading Memphis by a half dozen. All right, Kevin, thanks very much. And here in San Juan, it's Xavier by 6, despite the fact that Derek Brown has 2 fouls.
No points, 2 rebounds, and I think that speaks to it's a good news, bad news, because it speaks to the luxury Sean Miller has now that he's got depth on that front line with Kenny Freese and Love and now McLean.
One of the things that's kind of the hallmark for Xavier, that balanced attack. Last year, Josh Duncan led them in scoring, only 12.4 points per game, but they had 6 guys between 12.4 points per game and 9.7 points per game. So they basically had 6 double-figure scores.
Yeah, and it was Drew Lavender that was the point guard that made everything run. I mean, defensively, he could change a game. Offensively, in a half-court set, he was the guy that could get into the middle of the lane and dump off to Derek Brown and throw back out for wide open jump shots to Josh Duncan and also B.J. Raymond. So missing him this year was a huge question mark, but Terrell Holloway and Dante Jackson are doing a nice job thus far here early in the season.
I remember Sean Miller last year telling me that they had 6 go-to guys. But I think the beauty of the early part of the season is you're trying to find some different go-to guys.
Terrell Holloway, the freshman, handling. He originally committed to Indiana, but was let out of his commitment when Kelvin Sampson was fired. And he's done good work.
It's interesting about Holloway because he's from Hempstead, New York, but he went to prep school in Cincinnati last year at Harmony Prep. So he's not only familiar with the city of Cincinnati, but also away from home for a year already. So he's made that adjustment, I think, pretty well to college life.
Nineteen fouls on Memphis. It'll be 1-and-1. Dante Jackson at the line. The first substitution as Love checks in. And Kenny Freeze, the 7-foot freshman, will sit.
You know, I was looking at Xavier's non-conference schedule. You could just tell how much they've grown as a program. And they've already played Missouri, Virginia Tech. Here they're playing Memphis. They play Cincinnati. They still play Duke, Butler, Auburn, and then they go to an LSU team that no one's talking about in the SEC, but probably the most talented team in that conference.
I think you're right. If they get good point guard play, they've got Garrett Temple back, and they've got
Tasman Mitchell.
Yeah, Tasman's healthy.
Chris Johnson.
Yep. And then Thornton, the junior college kid that scored a lot last year.
Tyreek Evans been quiet here in the first half. The fadeaway jag.
Did you see how far they backed off of him? They were daring him to shoot that shot.
Jeff Robinson the board, and he's fouled.
Take a look at this. Watch this. Now they're backing off of him. They're just backing off of him. And then he shoots a fadeaway. Right now, Tyreek Evans, and I know that there's some talk. We talked about this. Guys going right to the league after 1 year. He's got to really work on that jump shot. Nobody will guard. You know this better than anybody. Nobody will guard him.
Well, I mean, he has great size, athleticism. I think he can be a really good defender. He can handle the basketball, but he needs to improve on his jump shot. He has to be able to knock down that 15-foot jump shot all the way out by the three-point line. But see, in high school, he never even had to shoot that.
No.
He was better than everybody else. And we talked about it before. This is the first time he's playing against somebody that's his size, his athleticism, same skill level. What are you going to do now?
When the games are meaningful.
Exactly.
Because in the summertime, you know what? It's like video games. You lose a game, okay, you play the next game.
Right.
None of the games are really that important. He's a good kid. I mean, he's a hard worker, too.
He has potential. He's going to be great by the time he leaves Memphis.
It's a matter, at least in part, of unrealistic expectations, because he is their leading scorer coming in at 15.3 points per game.
But the problem is when you're the number 1 or 2 player in the country in a given year, it doesn't mean you're as good as Michael Beasley or Kevin Durant. That's just the luck of the draw.
Yeah, I think that hits it right on the head.
It hits all these guys.
No, I just, in this tournament, seeing DeMar DeRozan and Tariq Evans also made me think, wow, Kevin Love and Derrick Rose.
They were good.
They were really good.
I mean, Michael Beasley.
They're really good.
McClain with the shot clock winding down, off with the 3. Push up ahead, Robinson. Oh, had to go off his hands, but they get Dante Jackson with the foul. His second, and I think Robinson was kind of bailed out right there by Jackson. Second foul on Jackson at double bonus time. 2:43 to go first half. Xavier by 4 and 2 shots for Robinson, the sophomore from Trenton, New Jersey. Robinson, a big recruit out of St. Patrick's in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
He has not played much in his career. He's an undersized 4-man is what he is. But he was very well coached by Kevin Boyle at St. Pat's. And speaking of St. Patrick's, how about Seton Hall winning 2 games down here?
I'm just so impressed by them. They're undermanned, undersized, and we talked to Coach Bobby Gonzalez, and he said they were Big East tough, and they were.
A lot of quickness in the backcourt for Seton Hall with Harvey.
Some of the best defensive guards in the Big East with Eugene Harvey, Paul Goss, Jordan Theodore, and the big guy, John Garcia, played well during the tournament as well.
They're pests.
7 on the shot clock. Holloway going to work on Kemp. Holloway to the lane. Swatted out of bounds by Robinson. Look out.
Now take a look at this. This is one of my pet peeves right now. Watch the post feed. They see guys are delivering the ball above the foul line extended, so they take McClain away from the basket.
And all you had to do was take one more extra step towards the wing and be able to get that nice bounce pass, and McClain would have had it right on the block.
If our college coaches are watching these games, would you please have your guys dribble below the foul line extended when you feed the post? It's the worst thing I've seen in the first 3 weeks of the season. Anytime you feed the post from above the foul line extended to a man inside, in order for him to catch it,
you don't have a good angle.
He's got to go away from the basket and play 15 feet away. Please work on that tomorrow. I can be an expert here. I am undefeated.
Yes, you are.
And it drives me crazy.
Xavier by 2. It's been a big first half for Jamel McLean. 11 points for the 6'8 sophomore.
Hampton Bethel High School, home of one Allen Iverson. Look at that. Derek Brown doesn't have to play, doesn't have to pick up the third foul because you've got the depth with McLean and Freeze.
Can't get the second, so he goes 1 for 2. Xavier by 3. Under 2 minutes to go here first half. John Shambi, Fran Fraschilla, and Hubert Davis with you. The O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico tip-off. It's the championship game. And a foul on the floor.
Well, they went to the zone, but Walsh was extended way too far out. I told John Calipari the other day that Brian Walsh is the best player to ever come out of Moon Township High School in Coraopolis, Pennsylvania, because that's the alma mater of John Calipari. It's also the alma mater of our Bob Davey on the football side.
Giving our football colleagues some love.
Right outside of Pittsburgh.
Right there by the airport.
That's where the five-star camp.
You know what?
Where you get a scholarship if you were a waiter. Remember?
Exactly. Did you go to 5-star?
I went to 5-star camp.
Yep.
Fight for the loose ball, tie-up. And it will be Xavier basketball.
You know, the great Howard Garfinkel, you know him well, Hubert, for being a camper there. He has a lot of alumni here at this tournament because both John and Sean are products of the camp, as are Bobby Gonzalez and Seth Greenberg. All those guys, particularly Bobby and Seth and John Calipari, were coaches, young coaches at that camp, and really honed their skills.
Now, we used to do all the station work outside on the asphalt. The camp that you go through in the summer, is DeMar DeRozan, Tyreek?
No, they've never been.
Are they outside or inside a nice air-conditioned gym?
95 degrees on the asphalt in Pittsburgh, and if you dove after a loose ball,
Exactly.
you dove into a metal fence. And guys like Patrick Ewing and Chris Mullin and Michael Jordan.
That's where you would have games. You would have games on the blacktop outside.
Of course.
Coach Rick Pitino, everybody was out there.
Willie Kemp to the goal. They get the travel. And a turnover, Xavier basketball.
One thing officials have done a great job of early in the year is calling the block charge. Now, that time it was a travel, but they are rewarding the defender for being in good position.
Here at Coliseo de Puerto Rico, number 12 Memphis taking on Xavier. The O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico tip-off championship game, and Xavier leading this one by 3. Under a minute and a half to go here in the first half, and it has been a feisty defensive battle. Feed down low to Love, looking for some help. Holloway tries the 3.
Wow.
Big shot for the freshman. He's got 5.
They've done a nice job, coach, of throwing the ball down low and posting that cross-court pass. B.J. Raymond hit that 3, and then now Terrell Holloway.
Not enough, and I mean this now, not enough college. I don't see that in college practices as much, where post players learn to catch and look opposite, especially versus a double team.
Evans pull up 3. Got that one. Tyreek Evans. Nice shot.
And he just put his hands together like he was praying. Like, thank you, Lord. Thank you.
That's not good.
I think you need to take him in the summertime. You can make about $100 an hour with the way you shot the basketball.
Xavier will have the last shot of the half. Up 3. Holloway. And they get the travel. It's a turnover. Memphis basketball, 10 seconds to go, so theoretically the Tigers could go into the half tied with the Musketeers.
You know they're going to go to some sort of dribble action, but Xavier's in his zone.
Clock winding down. Evans into the lane. High arcing shot. Evans, the follow won't go. So Memphis will trail by 3 at the break. Jamel McLean, 11 points for the Tulsa transfer. And look at the work that he has done from the floor this season. 32-29 our score at the break here, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico Tip-Off Championship. Now back to the studio and Kevin Nagandi.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by the Volkswagen Sign Then Drive event, German engineering for practically just a signature, and Verizon Wireless.
From beautiful San Juan, it's the O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico Tip-Off, and our championship game is at the break at Coliseo de Puerto Rico. Certainly some babies on both sides involved in this one, but Xavier leading by 3. John Shambi alongside Fran Fraschilla and Hubert Davis. And, well, Coach Fran, you look at the first half, Derek Brown was saddled with foul trouble, only played 6 minutes because of that. How was Xavier able to take a 3-point lead at the break?
John, Xavier's got as much frontline depth as most teams do, and so when he gets in foul trouble, Sean Miller can go to the 7-foot Kenny Freeze, or he can also go to the transfer Jamal McLean from Tulsa, who had a very, very good first half.
Yeah, Jamal McLean had an excellent first half as we check out those highlights.
And just take a look at this high flyer that has a 40-inch vertical, and so he's not going to miss many shots when he gets near the rim. And his 2 baskets right here were a big part of the reason that Memphis is down 3.
Well, you look at Memphis offensively, they struggle in a half-court set. They struggle to force turnovers to get out in transition, but what has kept them in the game is their ability to knock down 4 3-point jump shots. And here you see Tyreke Evans, who prior to this shot, Coach, he said was 1 of 12 from 3-point range, and praying to Jesus that he would make a shot.
It's like you said earlier, when you got to pray, that's not a good sign. Little zone to start the second half by the Musketeers. 3-2.
Anderson, little pull-up jumper. And Love pulls down the board. Anderson deflects it out of bounds, and it's Xavier basketball.
It'll be interesting to see if they keep shooting jumpers, because John Calipari's got a very good zone offense. I know because I stole it from him. I mean, I stole part of his offense and I used it. But the idea is to get the ball inside versus zone, not settle for those long threes.
Against the zone, you want to get the ball into the middle through pass or penetration, and that shot that Antonio Anderson took, you can take that anytime during the shot clock.
Yep, great point.
TJ Raymond looks for some help, but now Derek Brown. Good defense by Memphis. Raymond from the elbow. Got it. Xavier by 5.
It's the art of the shot fake right there. Shot fake, 2 dribble pull-up.
There's Evans to the goal.
That's what he does best.
That's his strength.
Yep, that's his strength right there.
Brown long in the jumper. Raymond the board. They'll set it back up. Anderson short, and Anderson the rebound.
See, Coach, I think that's just a poor shot. You can get that shot anytime during the shot clock, and especially from a guy that really can't shoot from that range. One pass shot when you're on the previous possession, you got a layup.
That's fool's gold right there.
Reverse layup missed, but Love active down low with the tip.
You know, he was one of the best offensive rebounders in the country last year. In fact, on almost 1 of every 5 possessions, he grabbed an offensive rebound. Good example right there.
Talked about guys losing weight. Mentioned it with Jeff Allen of Virginia Tech, and obviously Pierre Henderson-Niles. Jason Love's about 30 pounds lighter than he was when he entered college.
And where do you see Dexter Pittman of the Texas Longhorns? There's a guy that dropped about 60. He dropped a small child. They've got a great strength coach down there in Todd Wright, who
maybe he can give some of the weight to Connor Ashley.
yeah. But their Texas's front line is like these guys, a lot of depth and beef.
Ball on the floor, fight for it, loose ball, Xavier basketball. Xavier is matching the defensive intensity of the Memphis Tigers.
And that is not a surprise when you think that Sean Miller and John Calipari, basically from the same family tree, both basketball and otherwise, known each other their whole lives, basically. Well, I'll tell you, when I was an assistant at Providence and Sean Miller was the point guard of Pittsburgh, you talked about that. You see his father, John. He never even looked over at the coaching staff during the game because he ran the whole team himself and would know when to get Jerome Lane or Charles Smith the ball.
Got a timeout. Xavier calling timeout. 36-31. Sean Miller's group on top by 5. The O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico tip-off. Xavier by 5. Sean Miller as a point guard, a great distributor, and led to one loud dunk back in '88.
On the other wing. Bang!
Oh, one of the old-timers. Sean Miller to Jerome Lane, Mike Gorman, Bill Raftery on the call. I remember watching it live.
Yep, against the Providence Friars.
Who's the guy that was trying to take that charge?
I actually know his name because I coached at Providence, but I am not throwing him under the bus.
I just asked the question, Coach. I just asked the question.
You probably knew I knew it, but I'm not throwing him under the bus. Because I coached him later on. Part of Rick Barnes' staff.
Witherspoon in and out, one and done. Love the board. Brown feeds down low. Anderson finds Jackson. 3 is long. Antonio Anderson pulls it down. Memphis down 5. Dozier already has a 3. Misses that one. Tigers really struggling offensively. It's a credit to the Musketeers' defense, at least in part.
Well, they've got size inside to bother Taggart and Dozier, and they're allowing Memphis to shoot those jump shots, and you would too.
Anderson fouled and will go to the line. And another example, Coach, of what you were talking about. An undersized guy at 6'6" knows how to operate amongst the big bodies.
Well, he's had to. You know, it's not like he just shrunk. He's been undersized his whole career playing inside. This is a guy that had a great 2 years at Manhattan College, really the player of the year in the Metro Atlantic. And then when Bobby Gonzalez went to Seton Hall, as you mentioned earlier, he came home to Cincinnati. And he's a great locker room voice, too. You know, when a coach calls you a strong voice, that means something. That's usually a positive.
Well, he's an extension of the coach out there on the floor, and he's played so well down low on the post.
Yeah.
Memphis doesn't have an answer for him. They've been double teaming him down low on the post. So from an offensive standpoint, in a half-court set, the answer for Xavier is throw the ball down to C.J. Anderson. You pretty much can get any shot you want.
Yeah. You know, sometimes the extension of the coach is the point guard, and that's because he has to run a team, and then there's the extension of the coach from the standpoint of toughness, and that's what C.J. is.
They talked about that Coach Miller sometimes yells at the team through him because they know that he can take it.
That's a great ploy because that's exactly right. Some days he probably is really hard on him.
And the foul, Antonio Anderson using the bounce, and he'll go to the line and try and complete the three-point play.
Well, that's Memphis' strength. And speaking of getting back to Pittsburgh, there's Orlando Antigua, who was a teammate of Sean Miller's in Sean Miller's senior year, now on the coaching staff of the Tigers. He was an assistant at Pittsburgh the last few years for Jamie Dixon. All-rookie team. Was a freshman at Pitt.
And Memphis has had a lot of transition at the coaching, too. They lost 2 coaches. I mean, they lost Chuck Martin, who is now at Marist, and they also lost Derek Kellogg, who's now the head coach at UMass right now.
And who was the extension of John Calipari.
Exactly.
Antonio Anderson, the Tigers' leading scorer. He's got 10. baseline, and he's fouled by Mack.
Well, that's that automatic. That's the absolute. 2 hands on the driver. And there's really no question.
Number 3 on Donnell Mack.
I don't know how you feel, Yubi, but I like the fact that you got it. And I think the NBA, they don't allow hand checking, correct?
I agree with you.
So guys can have some freedom of movement.
Exactly, and that's the one area that can really help Memphis in terms of the dribble drive motion. And today playing against Xavier is going up against them. They're having a difficult time guarding the penetration of Xavier thus far.
Brown to Raymond, but they get him for the walk. Memphis ball. 15:44 to go in this one, and it's a tightly contested affair. Xavier by 3. So yesterday, a clinic here at Coliseo, Puerto Rico, and Coach Fran, I know you're telling them make sure you have a good angle for the entry pass. What
exactly.
else?
We worked on post feeding. You know, while you two guys were drinking pina coladas out by the pool.
Easy.
And actually, Hubert did not know about this, but this was fun. We did this last year, again this year. All these coaches and young men and women from the island, and they got a chance. You know what was exciting? They got a chance to be on this court, which is an NBA arena, obviously, and you know, the home of the Superior League playoffs in the summertime, and really a lot of fun. Big basketball island down here.
They also have that at the Final Four. They put a Final Four court in Basketball City, so they allow kids to get out there on the real Final Four court. And that's a big deal.
Yeah,
on the same court as some of these college players.
Just trying to help the kids, you know.
In San Juan, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico Tip-Off. John Shambi, Fran Fraschilla, Hubert Davis. And the Tigers get a 3-pointer from Robert Sally and knock this score at 37.
That's huge. Robert Sally had been in a huge shooting slump. The JUCO transfer from City College of San Francisco.
And coming into the season, they thought he was probably their best outside shooter, so they were looking for him to really stretch defenses with his perimeter shooting. Great shot out of the timeout.
Wesley Witherspoon deflects, and Terrell Holloway with a dozen on the shot clock.
Well, look how long, as Hubert talks about, how long Memphis is right now.
Big board right there, Jamel McLean. And it'll get back out to Holloway. Little guy trying to go up and under, and he's fouled.
You know, Coach, what I'm surprised about is how much time Derek Brown is staying out on the perimeter. I mean, this is a guy that made his money when he came into college, get down low on the post, scoring in the lane. Spent a lot of time out there. They've been posting up C.J. Anderson. He's the guy that can post up and score some points in the paint.
Yeah, you're right. You know, he actually doesn't have a bad touch, but you're exactly right. You know, coming into this season, about half of his baskets in college were dunks. And that's why he shot 63% the first 2 years.
I know he's been bothered by a bit of a sprained ankle, but I don't know that one is necessarily connected to the other.
Well, I think sometimes players want to show their versatility, so they go out and shoot a couple jump shots, and if they hit a couple, then they feel like, hey, I'm going to really show that I can shoot from the outside. But one of the things that my coach used to tell me, do what you do.
Right. Do what you
score
do
down
best.
low, do what you do best, but if there is an outside jump shot, then take it.
Well, now with Anderson and Frieza, and he's more likely to continue to stay on the perimeter.
Holloway continuing his brilliant free throw shooting. Does work on the defensive end, and they just hit Orlando Antigua with a technical foul.
Well, we were trying to make him famous before because he's a teammate of Sean Miller, but it's a tough situation to be in as an assistant. And that'll be 2 free throws, and Xavier will maintain the ball.
As a head coach, is it any more frustrating when one of your assistants gets a tech?
Only if you lose by 1 and Xavier makes 2 free throws.
Okay.
You know, right now it's not that big a deal.
Right.
You know, you want your coaches to show passion, but you know, on the other hand, I think for assistant coaches, it's out of sight, out of mind. I've been there. I got a couple as an assistant. It's not fun.
Terrell Holloway, 21 of 22, make it 22 of 23 from the free throw line to start his college career.
Oftentimes the referee will look over to you as the head coach and say, Coach, I'll take it from you, but I'm not going to take it from your assistants. And
Coach, you told a great story the other day where you got a technical foul. It wasn't in the Mount Invitational. You're up by 21.
Yeah, he's throwing me under the bus. We're up 25 in Maui. I'm at Ohio State with Gary Williams, and we're playing Vanderbilt in a morning game. Nobody's in the height and big gym there at Lahaina. And I yell over the back, and there's nobody in the gym, so everybody hears me, and I get teed. And the next day in the Columbus Dispatch, it says, Ohio State wins going away, but late in the game, Gary Williams inexplicably got a technical foul. And I'm going to see Coach Williams down in Orlando. He's probably going to remind me of that.
Yeah, we've got the Michigan State Maryland game. Tyreek Evans a little out of control right there. Still, though, draws the foul.
Well, he did draw the foul, but I'm a big believer in not rewarding an offensive player who's out of control like that. There's obviously a little contact there, but he had nowhere to go.
John Calipari's team down 4, the winningest coach in Memphis history, and Tigers at 104 wins last 3 years, tying an NCAA record.
Tariq Evans, his last game, didn't score a lot of points, but I thought he had a better game than the first one because he shared the basketball. He had 6 assists. He had 7 rebounds. He had 12 points. He had a more complete game, but in the first game he had 18, 19 points, and people probably thought, oh, he had a great game there, but he was more of a basketball player in that second game.
Anderson has his shot blocked, but gets his own miss and lays it in. He is determined. 9.
He's a warrior, and he is like emblematic of why Xavier has been good for so long.
They get Kenny Freeze in the foul. The freshman charged with his 3rd. And tomorrow night, ESPN2, a couple of college basketball games from the O'Reilly Auto Parts CBE Classic. First, it'll be Syracuse and number 19 Florida, 7:30 Eastern, and then number 24 Kansas goes up against Jonathan Brockman and the Washington Huskies. That is at 9:30 Eastern here on ESPN2.
Boy, if you haven't seen John Brockman play, I talked about Johnny Flynn as being my favorite point guard. If I was putting together a roster here, but he'd be on my team.
He plays hard all the time on both ends of the floor on every possession, and I like to see him and Herringody go at it. Or John Brockman and Tyler Hansbrough going, and now that he's back in the lineup.
Taggart's follow wouldn't go. Rebound ripped down by Jason Love. And Xavier looking to add to its 4-point advantage.
Yep, right here, easy. Your freshman Holloway. That's it.
Xavier's been having a lot of success posting up C.J. Anderson down low. Look for them against Jeff Robinson, maybe to create a double team.
Raymond, spin move in the fadeaway, nice shot. Got some separation.
Exactly, John. That's a hard shot right there without traveling. All he needed was to create that separation. You're exactly right.
Yeah, but DJ Raymond was able to get that separation because of his strength. He was going up against Wesley Witherspoon, so.
Good point.
Holloway kicks out. Anderson the ball fake. Raymond the 3. Taggart the rebound. Here come the Tigers. Anderson fouled, and he'll go to the line. Memphis trying to push the pace and get something going in transition. Has not been easy, though, tonight.
It hasn't. But I like the idea that they're pushing it because they're not getting anything in the half-court offense, whether it's the zone or the sagging man-to-man. They've bottled up Taggart and Dozier when Dozier's been in there inside.
Well, this is going to be the case for them all year. If they don't create turnovers and get into the open court, they're going to have a tough time scoring unless one of them, Donnell Mack or Robert Salley or Willie Kemp, really shoot the ball well from the outside.
You know how I describe it, guys? Last year they had a Bentley. They had a Bentley, but they don't have the same engine this year. They may have I don't want to say a Chevrolet engine in the Bentley. Last year they had Derrick Rose running the show. And what will happen is the car's not going to run as smoothly this year, but it's still going to look nice. They will still win a lot of games because John Calipari will coach it out of them, but they're not going to have the same flow they did with CDR and Derrick Rose gone.
After their Game 1 win here in Puerto Rico, Edgar Padilla, who played for Calipari at UMass, asked John Calipari, who's your point guard? Coach Cal said, I don't know. And Padilla, who lives here in Puerto Rico, said, say that again? I don't know. 4 different guys are bringing the ball up the court. So something they'll just have to figure out.
Well, you're right. You know, Hubert loves Anderson's leadership, you know, as do I. I like Witherspoon's ability to, you know, create for a guy that's 6'7" or 6'8". They each do something pretty well, but I'm not sure anybody really is the one answer for this team.
Well, when you look at Willie Kemp, sometimes his confidence goes up and down, so you can't look at him at the point guard position. And then Wesley Witherspoon can handle the basketball, but I'm scared against a great defensive guard like a Paul Gobbs or Eugene Harvey. Can he bring up the basketball and get the team into their offense without turning the ball over?
On the baseline, Tyreek Evans is fouled, so he's been more aggressive going to the goal. Let's finish up the point guard point as far as Memphis. We'll get to that when we come back. Memphis down 6, 11:51 to go in this one.
Hubert, how you guys feeling? The weather good over there?
Oh, it is beautiful here, Kevin. They've treated us well. The O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico tip-off, and Xavier by 6. The young man in the black right there, that's C.J. Henry. Coach, could he be answer to their point guard problem?
They are expecting him to play the point. Now, you know the story with him, John. You're a baseball announcer. Drafted by the New York Yankees. That was sort of a washout. I think he ended up with the Phillies, maybe. He decided he's committed to Kansas out of high school, but he took the money with the Yankees. He's now at Memphis, and he's hurt right now. They're expecting him to be part of that point guard rotation. Oh, by the way, he's bringing his brother with him next year, Xavier, who ESPN, our recruiting gurus, think he's the #1 recruit in college basketball. They beat Kansas for him.
So the brothers will get a chance to play together. It'll be an interesting one to watch with C.J. Henry. Certainly there will be rust, but this isn't some 18-year-old kid. He's 22 years old, and the maturity you'd think will help him.
Reminds me of Texas's wide receiver, Quan Cosby, who's had a great career after minor league baseball, and he's a team leader because of all that maturity you talked about.
McLean couldn't get the shot to go. Anderson leads the Tigers the other way. Mack eyes the 3. Dozier able to save, and they'll set it up. Mack from the other side misses that one.
You know, you get the feeling with Memphis that they're not going to make 2 threes in a row all season. Let me get back to Henry and finish this up, because John Calipari was an assistant coach at Kansas back when Carl Henry played at Kansas. And so there was a really big recruiting war between Kansas, where his dad played, and where John Calipari coached. And CJ came on board, and now Xavier. So family ties all around. You guys know what I mean? I don't feel like they're going to make 2 threes in a row all season long, or one guy won't make 2 threes in a row. That's
when you're talking about knocking down perimeter jump shot, it doesn't have to be a 3. You can put the ball on the floor, take 1 or 2 dribbles, a mid-range jump shot. That jump shot right there by Wesley Witherspoon, that's available. You don't have to shoot the 3.
That's prophetic, my friend, right there. He must have played a little hoops.
Steal by Evans. Showtime. And Memphis within 2.
They've got to get... right now, they're ball handling in the backcourt with Dante Jackson, and Redford's going to be shaky against this group.
Sean Miller wants the timeout. He's frustrated because he wanted the timeout all the way at the other end. 10:05 to go in this one. Musketeers leading by 2, but Memphis has scored 4 in a row to close to within the bucket. And again, that defensive pressure of the Memphis Tigers, you know, they don't shoot the 3 particularly well. They do guard it really well, though.
No, they really do. And the teams they're pretty similar because they both are defensive and scrappy oriented.
And folks, tomorrow afternoon, ESPN 2 with a couple of college hoop games. 3 Eastern. St. Joe's will take on Texas, and 5 Eastern, it's Indiana going up against Notre Dame. The EA Sports Maui Invitational, part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. That's ESPN 2 tomorrow and get a look at some good players. Of course, we talk about best shooter in the country. You'd have to say it's Stephen Curry, but McElharney of Notre Dame might be the next guy right there.
A very distant second.
But he's got range.
He's got range.
He's got range.
He's got range, but you guys did that game against Oklahoma. Not only can Stephen Curry shoot, he can shoot with the hand in his face. He doesn't need that much space to be able to get his shot off. A couple times he had Blake Griffin, still was able to create separation and knock down a number of three-point. You said he missed a couple bunnies and still had 44.
I thought he could. I thought he had 44. Didn't play his best. I thought he could have had 60.
Raymond ends up gathering in his missed three. Into the lane, and he's fouled. And good to see Pierre Henderson-Niles back in. Sprained his knee in the first half, but the big fella is fine. Good to see. And they get him with the foul, his second. 17 fouls on Memphis. So B.J. Raymond will go to the line to shoot 1-1.
You don't want to get back to McElharney because that would be a great shooting contest.
It would be.
I love Stephen Curry. I just marvel at what he's done. But boy, McElharney, and he gets it going.
Yeah, Kyle McElharney can knock him down in a nice inside-outside threat with Luke Arringody.
If you ask me, I love A.J. Abrams. Jack McClinton from Miami can shoot it from deep. And I think those two guys right there.
Robert Baden.
Yep. He's
more of a streaky shooter.
Streak shooter, yep, I agree. Oh, this next 9.5 minutes, guys, all about toughness. And both teams have it.
Been on display all night long in the defensive end. Dozier backing down. Jump hook is good. Nice move for Robert Dozier. Only his 4th and 5th points of the night.
Yeah, but I like the patience. He cut the ball outside the lane, took his time, took a couple nice dribbles, great separation, got a right-hand jump hook. That's available for him every time in a half-court set.
Freeze steps out, and they feed Brown with Dozier on it. Good matchup there. Holloway uses the freeze pick, feed to the big guy. Hanks in the air. Oh, goodness. 7 feet, 65 pounds.
Okay.
Wow.
You don't usually equate hang time and Kenny Freeze and put them in the same sentence.
Off with a foul on the floor.
You know, Coach, I think one of the things that Memphis needs to do is have more spacing down low on the block. Kenny Freeze is just sitting there right underneath the lane. You've got to get Wesley Witherspoon or you got to get Pierre Henderson-Niles up at the top of the key. Beautiful right-hand jump hook. High-low action to give him some space to be able to get his right-hand jump hook off.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we talked about toughness, John.
Has some words on both sides, and everybody just coming together. Little meeting in the middle of the lane. 8:29 to go in our championship game, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico Tip-Off. Xavier by 4. John Chambi, Fran Fraschilla, and Hubert Davis with you.
You know, when Xavier played Virginia Tech, I mentioned on the air, it was like an 8-9 game. This is like a second-round NCAA game. If you put 18,000 in the building, that's what this would feel like.
I'm with you. Taggart turns it over with the travel. And Xavier basketball. Taggart and Dozier combined only 9 points in the game. So they've done a good job limiting the two big fellas. Two big fellas have the Xavier Musketeers. Feed to Freeze. Raymond uses the dribble, soft touch.
Great inside out again. They have a lot of confidence in Kenny Freeze to go inside to him.
Dozier answers with a 3.
But also good pump fake by B.J. Raymond. He got the ball, didn't force a contested 3. Pump fake, put the ball on the floor for 1 or 2 dribbles to knock down an easy 15-foot jump shot.
It's that mid-range shot you've been talking about.
Tell you what, the Musketeers have two good-looking freshmen. Freeze and Holloway are going to be pushing Sean Miller for more and more minutes.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, the coaches voted St. Joseph the #1 team in Atlantic 10 preseason.
Raymond off the mark, Memphis the other way, and they're down 3. And Freeze fouls Dozier.
You know what? Dozier and Anderson have won a lot of games in 3+ years. And right now, John Calipari knows exactly who to go to.
Yeah, lots of experience on the Memphis side, but Xavier leads.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts at better prices every day. And Puerto Rico. No passport required for U.S. citizens.
Back here in San Juan, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico Tip-Off. The championship game at Xavier by 3. And tell you what, Xavier in elite company last 5 years. Look at that list.
Memphis 3 times, obviously, and you look at the thing that stands out to you is Memphis and Xavier, as you mentioned earlier, John, Atlantic 10 Conference USA, 2 of the dominant teams in each of their leagues.
That is something else. Last year, Xavier got to the Elite 8, lost to UCLA as a 3 seed, 76-57. And the Memphis Tigers, John Calipari wins 30 games this year. Will become the first team in NCAA history to win 30 or more 4 straight years. So on both sides, a lot of impressive work.
Knowing John, he'll consider 30 an off season. But tremendous job over the years at Memphis.
Memphis throughout the game has been struggling. Who they're going to go to in a half-court setting over the last 3 or 4 minutes has been Robert Dozier. Put the ball in his hands down low on the block, and he's been able to produce. Nice right-hand jump hook, being able to get to the free-throw line. So he's going to be the answer for them, the go-to guy down the stretch.
But I like your idea of making sure they space the floor. Because
but it's hard to do that when the other team knows they can't shoot.
Exactly.
Wisely, C.J. Anderson calls time. The Memphis pressure really bothering Sean Miller's group. 2-point game, and what an amazing way the Xavier Musketeers got here with the win over Virginia Tech. You did that game, Fran, and it was wild. I mean, Virginia Tech had opportunity to put the game away. Eventually, it went to overtime.
Dante Jackson throwing one in. He had Hubert Davis range on that half-court shot.
That was luck.
Jeff Allen there with the tip and the follow. Virginia Tech by 1. And here's Dante Jackson. Only field goal of the game from the mid-court stripe. And another look.
Man, that's why I'm not coaching, gentlemen. That was a well-played game, too, both teams. And Virginia Tech unlucky today as Seton Hall beat them again.
And again, a hard-fought game on both sides. Seton Hall and Virginia Tech.
I got to make sure I phrase this the right way, but there's not a lot. Bobby Gonzalez does not have a lot of friends in the Big East, but he can coach.
He can coach.
He can coach, and those kids play their hearts out for him. New York and New Jersey kids.
Lightning quick guards. Nice move, Brown. Short on that shot. Anderson the other way. And they'll set it up. Tyreek Evans, the freshman.
You see, Coach, what I don't like about that shot, the last 3 possessions, you got a high percentage shot with Robert Dozier. Why would you shoot the ball with 1 pass? That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Because you're a freshman.
Jackson uses the ball fake, and then Holloway. Taggart comes away with it. Mack for 3. Wow!
Well, why not? Donnell Mack's had 2 big games so far in this tournament.
19 points in their opening win over Chattanooga. Holloway to the rim, and he's fouled. Folks, tomorrow night ESPN2 shoots 2 college basketball games from the O'Reilly Auto Parts CBE Classic, 7:30 Eastern. It's Syracuse going up against Billy Donovan's number 19 Florida Gators, and then 9:30 Bill Self in Kansas going up against the Washington Huskies. The O'Reilly Auto Parts CBE Classic, part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. ESPN2 tomorrow.
That's like the Jayhawk Invitational being played at the Sprint Center in Kansas City. Bill Self's team is really young, Hubert, but I think by about the middle of the Big 12 season, they're going to be a pretty good team.
Well, they got an outstanding point guard in Sharon Collins, and now his show now. He's the guy that can penetrate in the lane. He's a big-time scorer. And Cole Aldridge played so well in the Final Four last year against Tyler Hansbrough. Let's see if he can translate that into the regular season this year.
Boy, this guy is money, isn't he? Holloway.
He was the guy that did the damage down the stretch against Missouri. The late stages, they put him at the line. And he went 10 for 10. Foul on the floor. And they get Holloway with the foul.
Yeah, you have to know now the point of emphasis is going to be on hand checking. And that time there was a little too much contact. Holloway's talking to his coach and saying, hey, you know, I'm a freshman. How do you guard these guys?
Free throw no good. Frees the board. Gives off to his fellow freshman. Xavier by a point.
Memphis around 60% today from the line. They're going to have to make them down the stretch.
Anderson thought a teammate was cutting. Instead, he turns it over, and Memphis a chance to retake the lead. Feeds to Taggart, spinning on Freeze. Shot blocked. Out of bounds. It'll stay Memphis ball.
Well, that's the second time they posted it up, down on the, and he made that turnaround jump shot. And Kenny Freeze is right on there. He's going to have to develop a left-hand jump hook. But once again, get the ball down to Robert Dozier. He's been your guy over the last 5 minutes. Establish him in the post. And he'll get you a good shot. Either he will shoot it or you can open up a wide-open shooter. Donnell Mack just knock down the 3.
Yeah, Freeze does a good job, Hubert, of not leaving his feet.
Just keeps his hands up.
Yep. He plays 8 feet, really 8.5 feet because of that length.
Dozier outside with McLean on him, pulls up, and is short. Dante Jackson. McLean feeds Freeze, but it's intercepted by Dozier.
Yeah, that ball was in the air too long. A tough angle to feed the post from.
Dozier spinning, and it's blocked. If they got Freeze, he's done. They did. Number 5 on the freshman Kenny Freeze.
This looked like Kenny Freeze violated that principle of verticality. Let's take a look now. It looked like his arm came down. Here's the spin.
Like he got a lot of ball,
too. He did get a lot of ball. But I'll tell you, anytime you whack that hand down, instead of just staying straight up.
Times or not, it's going to be called a foul.
Yeah, and that's just something he'll learn. And I was watching, the Davidson big guys are great at that. They don't, none of them can jump. Lovedale, Rossiter, you got to love them, but none of them can really jump, but they all put their hands to the ceiling and make you shoot over them.
Forwards and center last year were so good at that. Boris Meno and Thomas Sanders. They weren't guys that could get consistent points in the paint, but they knew how to defend. They knew how to use their body to gain an advantage.
They're going to be an interesting team to watch as well because they get Frank Benizzi, once he's healthy, back from a knee injury, and he's considered a high major type of player. They originally signed with Harvard, but had interest from Big East schools.
Well, you're right. And he's probably the most high-profile player that Bob McKillop signed, and that includes Steph Curry.
Jackson gives off to Love. 4 minutes to go in our championship game, and we are tied at 53. Brown. Fight for the rebound. Anderson was on the baseline, and it'll go over to Memphis. The under 4 timeout here in San Juan, and it's a good one. The O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico tip-off tied at 53. It's the O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico tip-off. Xavier and Memphis tied at 53 in our championship game. And John Calipari trying to lead the Memphis Tigers to that championship. We got kind of a family affair feel to this one, at least from a coaching standpoint.
Well, it goes back quite a while. They consider themselves like cousins, basically. John Calipari and his grandmother, she was real good friends with the Miller family. John spent a lot of time at the Miller house when he was young, and there's John Miller, the former coach at Black Hawk High School, where he coached Sean and Archie Miller. Archie went on to NC State. Dante Calabria, who was a terrific player at Carolina, still playing in Italy, I believe.
Exactly.
I keep up with the Italian guys. I'll tell you, one guy who's sweating right now in a close game, I hate to say it, is Orlando Antigua. Those 2 free throws on the technical, they loom large. There's nobody praying for a Memphis victory more than he is right now, trust me.
That one slips out of Witherspoon's hands. And Xavier basketball. He got the tech earlier, did Orlando Antigua, the New York City native.
Terrific player at Pittsburgh, outstanding assistant coach.
Came out of St. Raymond's High School in New York City.
You know,
program.
And you do know why his nickname is Bullethead.
I do.
He was once inadvertently, he had nothing to do with it, but he was shot, and the bullet still lodged in his body. And he looks no worse than wear for it. Former Globetrotter, by the way.
Yeah. Sean Miller wanted the foul and the bump on Raymond. Didn't get the call. It's getting real physical down the stretch.
You know, if Xavier has some sort of isolation play for C.J. Anderson, this would be a good time for him.
You have to get the ball down on the post. He's been the one answer for them in a half court.
Yeah.
Raymond pressured here. Deep 3 from Anderson, and it's short. Love fights for the rebound. And I think they got Sean Taggart.
But it's hard to get it down to C.J. Anderson when you're fighting for your life just to get the ball up the court. You're not thinking about setting up, getting into an offense. You're thinking about not turning the ball.
Yeah, you're right.
Love to the line. 1-and-1. That last foul was on Taggart. It's his 3rd. Each side 19 fouls, so they'll be shooting 2 the rest of the way, both sides. And Love hits.
Boy, Jason Love is like old reliable. You know, he's a terrific offensive and defensive rebounder. He's a good defender. He's really been a self-made player. You think of all the great big men that have come through Xavier, they're very similar to Jason Love. They're all 4-year guys who developed within the system. The Brian Grants, the Aaron Williamses, Tyrone Hills, now David West.
Memphis down a point. We'll see where they go. Dozier has it knocked away. Jackson. Did they get offensive interference? They should.
They will. Kelly Self was right on it.
Count the basket and the foul.
Now, this is what happens when Dozier keeps spinning in the lane with the dribble. They went to school on it, and we catch the back end of it. But there's the finish. And Anderson grabbed the rim. Kelly Self had the call. This is easy. Wow.
Not grabbing the rim on purpose, by the way.
Well,
at least our 2 looks. He was just going after the ball, but it doesn't matter.
Yes. Now, let me tell you, if he had grabbed it on purpose, it would have been basket good and a technical foul for hanging on the rim, but I think they adjudicated this. You like that word? That's a Carolina word.
SAT word.
Yeah, they adjudicated that quite well. Kelly Self had the basket interference.
A reminder coming up next, the 2008 World Series of Poker. It's presented by Milwaukee's Best Light at the Rio Las Vegas Hotel and Casino. So we got some poker coming up next. Coach Frischilla has been going through his old SAT flashcards.
Let me try this word.
Yeah, see if it fits.
The word for the day.
I got a Boston College guy and a North Carolina guy here, and I'm from Brooklyn, so. But did you know that I almost saw that coming here because Dozier uses that spin move.
He did, but the ball stuck.
Yeah.
They had Tariq Evans have the ball. One of the things that he does, and he's a really talented basketball player, but when they run that dribble drive motion offense, the ball sticks with him. And he looks as if, should I shoot this jump shot or not? It has to keep going and going for it to work well. And in that situation, Dozier got the turnover, and now Xavier's in huge control right now, up by 4.
3-point play. Xavier leading this one by 4.
See that 3-2 zone now.
Remember, against the zone, you want to get the ball in the middle to pass a penetration.
What do they have? Oh, they got the block on Dante Jackson, who took a hurt getting run over by Tariq Evans, the freshman.
One thing Tariq Evans can do now, he can put it on the floor. But that was a charge the other night, so he was fortunate. I think it was the right call, but the other night, what did he have, 4 charges? 4 charges. What was that, the dribble, charge?
Dribble, drive, charge offense.
He'll learn. See, in high school, they used to get out of his way and say, "Excuse me, Mr. Evans." You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, he was not going up against very many 6'6", 220-pound guards in high school.
Well, that's the same thing that Jeff Allen from Virginia Tech, Coach Seth Greenberg challenged him. He said, you cannot rely on your own natural ability. You're going to have to get in the weight room. You got to work on your game. And it came easy for Jeff Allen in high school, and it's come easy for DeMar DeRozan and Tariq Evans here from Memphis. And it's going to take time for them to learn to play against guys that are the same size and have the same type of talents that they do.
3-point game, 2 to go. And a toss up ahead to the freshman Holloway. Almost got it taken away by the freshman Wesley Witherspoon.
It's Xavier's jump ball possession, and they have 1 timeout left.
So any tie-up goes to Xavier. Brown will try a 3.
Oh, boy.
Off the mark. How do you like that shot of Sean Miller?
No, too much time on the clock.
And a timeout called by John Calipari. 57-54, our O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico Tip-Off Championship game. And it has been a tightly contested ball game. Great defense on both ends. It has not been a thing of beauty the entire night. Regardless, lots of effort. Derek Brown, by the way, 0 for 6 from the floor in this one.
Well, I think that's the one thing that's kept Memphis in the game is being able to knock down 7 threes. Not a great percentage, obviously, but to be able to knock down a couple threes has really helped Memphis offensively because they haven't been able to consistently create turnovers and get into transition.
It's almost like, on the other hand, it's almost like fool's gold because Xavier's given him those shots, and they have made them.
Tomorrow night, ESPN 2, college basketball from the O'Reilly Auto Parts CBE Classic. Syracuse in Florida, game 1, 7:30 Eastern, and then 9:30 Eastern, number 24, Kansas, goes up against Jonathan Brockman and the Washington Huskies. The O'Reilly Auto Parts CBE Classic, part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's, ESPN 2, tomorrow.
You're right. You mentioned this earlier. Memphis better get used to working on that zone offense because they're going to see a lot of it over the course of the season. Xavier goes back man now.
Mack Mack into the lane, left-handed scoop shot. Can't get it to go, but he's fouled. And Jason Love went down hard.
Jason Love took 2 huge charges in Xavier's win earlier in the week over Virginia Tech, but he did not get there in time right there.
I really like that move by Donnell Mack. That's something that he's worked on over the summer, is be able to put the ball on the floor. He's pretty much known for Memphis as a three-point specialist. To be able to put the ball on the floor with his size and athleticism, nice job getting to the free throw line. Now they just need to make the free throws.
It's not been a strength of Memphis over the last few years, obviously. Look at that. It's almost contagious. It's almost mental in the last 2 minutes for Memphis. It really is.
Dozier, though, the rebound. And a fresh shot clock for Memphis. Mack into the lane. The floater is good. Tigers within 1.
Boy, Robert Dozier, how about that? He made that entire play. Don't have to foul. Don't have to foul.
Oh! Evans almost got the steal from behind. Raymond didn't see him coming. Witherspoon back in. And he'll replace his freshman teammate Tyreke Evans.
Coach, I think they need to get the ball down to C.J. Anderson.
This would be a great, if you had some sort of misdirection play where you know everybody went one way and C.J. had it on the wing, but they won't have to worry about that at this point because they're going to shoot some free throws.
They got Dozier, number 4. And Brown at the line for 2. 55.3 seconds left in our championship game here in San Juan. John Shambi, Fran Fraschilla, Hubert Davis with you. And good defense, great energy on both ends of the court. Dante Jackson back in, and Terrell Holloway, the freshman, sits.
You know, what's fun is to see 2 teams that went very, very far last year. Each of them has lost 3 great players for their programs. And both of these teams are going to be very, very good basketball teams over the course of the season. Not quite as good, Memphis, obviously. It's impossible to be. But this is exactly what we expected on the defensive end.
Xavier lost their defensive ace in Stanley Burrell, one of the top defensive guards in the country. He graduated last year. Mack to the rim. Nice move.
You know what's amazing about that? They backed off of him, and he still was able to get by. John Calipari's got 2 timeouts left. Doesn't need to use them because the clock stops in the last minute.
They try to trap Jackson. And a timeout. And Sean Miller wants to get his freshman back in the game. Wanted to get Terrell Holloway back in. So Xavier up by a point. 30.7 seconds left in this one. And this would be a monstrous win for the Musketeers. The 2008 World Series of Poker coming up next. And I'll tell you what, if Xavier pulls this off, 3 impressive wins, Missouri, Virginia Tech, and then Memphis. One of the things so impressive in the early going of this season, late stages, freshmen in the game, and having to get big minutes out of them. Xavier on the season and tonight about the same.
No, you're right. And what happens is the upperclassmen pull the freshmen along with them. And it starts back in the summertime with the preseason conditioning, the weight room, and then once they get to practice, it's a mindset that we win at Xavier. Same thing is true at Memphis now, obviously. Right. But when you're a young player and you come into these winning programs, it's up to the older guys to teach you how to win in games like that.
And everybody can learn, including the coaches, because Sean Miller in game 1 up 3 with seconds to go, fouled Missouri rather than let them get a chance at the three. Remember 2007 NCAA tournament? Ron Lewis hits the three, sends it to overtime, and Sean Miller said, you know what? If we were going to lose that game, I wanted to say we would lose a different way, and we learned back then. We learned the hard way. So even the coaches can learn.
Right now, if you're Memphis, if you don't get a quick steps foul, you're going to have to trap, I should say. You're going to have to foul.
Holloway splits the two defenders. They get the foul.
And you're putting somebody at the free throw line that has been there before in this tournament, knocking down 10 free throws in the clutch against Missouri.
You know what the scary part is? I agree with you. I'd love to have him out there, but he's actually due to miss one. I mean, and if he doesn't, I'll tell you what, he's going to start shooting their technical fouls. And as a freshman, that's pretty good. Because he has been money.
25 of 26 to start the season for the freshman from Hempstead, New York. You can book that one.
Man, that's ice water.
Gets them both.
I think you'll agree, Hubert, it's too early to foul, I think, in terms of not letting them shoot the three.
It is still, and then from an offensive standpoint, you still got enough time. You can still go for a quick two offensively from Memphis.
I agree with that.
You don't have to go for the three now.
Evans does go for it and misses it. Dozier, though, the big rebound, and they got Derek Brown on the foul. Brown.
And I hate to say this because Tariq Evans is going to be a good player, but you don't need the three in that situation. The percentage play is drive it because Sean Miller's told his team, do not foul. Boy, and that is a break. That is a break. It also shows you the effort of Robert Dozier on the offensive glass.
Exactly. Being able to go to the free throw line now, they'll be able to set up their defense. It's going to make it real tough for Xavier to even get inbounds to pass.
Derek Brown, his fifth foul, so he's done. Quiet night for the junior from Dayton. He had 16 points each against both Missouri and Virginia Tech, but early foul trouble kind of put him in the jackpot and wasn't really able to get involved offensively.
And you know what? And they're still up three because of the depth of that front line, particularly Jamal McClain. Now it looks like they're going to go small, the three guards. C.J. Anderson at the 4 and Love at the 5. Telling you, it's mental. And it is because it's in these guys' heads going back over a couple of years that they're not supposed to make them in the last minute. He's a reasonably good foul shooter.
Exactly.
Dozier short on the second. Rebound Jackson. And then a foul as Anderson fouls Dante Jackson. John Calipari has got to have agita watching his team go to the line and struggle that way.
You know, I've known him a long time. He's one of the best coaches in college basketball. People that think he doesn't coach and he recruits good players, they don't know him. But I think there are sometimes, last year, he talked about the free throw shooting so much that I think it really played a factor in, on the minds of his kids.
Well, did he talk about it too much or did he get asked about it too much?
Well, it's a snowball rolling downhill once you talk about it because you don't have to always talk about it when people ask you questions in press conference. And I remember being at Providence one year and we were not a good foul shooting team when I was with Rick Barnes. And the more we shot free throws in practice, the worse we got.
Calipari and his Tigers, that heartbreaking loss in the championship game last year, says he still has not watched the tape of that one.
I really think you can get a quick two here.
I do. I agree with you.
Just go right to the rim.
Not need a three. Just need to make it into one possession.
Dozier, though, Misses the three. They foul C.J. Anderson, and that will pretty much do it. The Musketeers got to be happy with a win here in San Juan over one of the top teams in the country, number 12 Memphis.
You know, there's one thing that I've seen in this tournament, and that is early season toughness. None of these teams are playing their best basketball right now. They're probably at about 60–70% of where they'll be on February 1st. But games have been won in this tournament because of toughness.
Missouri's won on toughness.
Yep.
Seton Hall has won. Virginia Tech. And now Xavier here in this championship game.
3 games.
Three games.
Xavier's won 3 games on toughness. And toughness can sustain you while you're trying to figure out your rotation, who your go-to guys are.
C.J. Anderson will go to the line.
This is a good time to talk about this. Sean Miller will be a hot commodity this year. There's going to be some good jobs open. He has a great job at Xavier. And I would never presume to tell him what to do, but to me, he's got one of the best jobs in the country because Xavier always wins. They do it the right way. He's in a major market. And he's got a league that he can be near the top of the league every year. Much like Mark Few.
At the buzzer. And that's that. Xavier wins it over Memphis 63–58. And the Xavier Musketeers, the champions of the 2008 O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico Tip-Off. Sean Miller and company got to be proud of the work that they did. Toughness, the key word. And down the stretch, they played 3 close games, Hubert. And that's a good test early.
Well, coming into this season, you look at what they lost. Drew Lavender, Josh Duncan, Stanley Burrell. They came into this season with major question marks. And leaving from this tournament, a lot of those questions have been answered. They've gotten some big help off the bench. They had 26 bench points. You look at what the freshmen have done. Kenny Freeze, Terrell Holloway, being able to come in and play big-time minutes in big-time situations. And Coach Miller has to feel extremely good about this young, talented basketball team.
See the Musketeers and their fans enjoying some time together. It's exciting. You go up against a quality Memphis team and get a win early.
Well, they've established themselves, Xavier, over the last quarter century as a good program. In recent years, they've become a great program, and there's no reason why they can't continue to be a top 15 program. And Sean Miller is the right guy to do it, at least for the foreseeable future.
As Xavier, consider for a second they won 20 or more games, 11 of the last 12 seasons, and one of just 9 teams to make multiple appearances in the Elite 8 for the last 5 years. Xavier wins it 63–58 over Memphis. For Hubert Davis and Fran Fraschilla and our entire ESPN2 crew, I'm John Shambi. Up next, the 2008 World Series of Poker. This has been an exclusive presentation of ESPN.